of Godhead has been accepted as transcendental and beyond the experience of material pain and pleasure. By such meditation, even one who is grossly miscreant can be delivered from the sinful reactions of his life. In the Vishnu Dharma, there is a statement about meditation on the transcendental qualities of the Lord. It is said, persons who are constantly engaged in Krishna consciousness and who remember the transcendental qualities of the Lord become free from all reactions to sinful activities, and after being so cleansed, they become fit to enter into the kingdom of God. In other words, no one can enter into the kingdom of God without being freed from all sinful reactions. One can avoid sinful reactions simply by remembering the Lord's form, qualities, pastimes, etc. In the Padma Purana, there is a statement about remembering the activities of the Lord. A person who is always engaged in meditation on the sweet pastimes and wonderful activities of the Lord surely becomes free from all material contamination. Shishikodantai Mai Pushashiki Jai. Shri Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 10, chapter entitled Prahlad, the Best Among Exalted Devotees, Text 14. Yaitat kirtayen mayam tvaya gitamida naraha tvam chamam cha smaran kale karma bandhat pramuchyate. Yaitat kirtayen mayam tvaya gitamidam naraha tvam chamam cha smaran kale karma bandhat pramuchyate. Tvaya gitamidam naraha tvam chamam cha smaran kale karma bandhat pramuchyate. Tvam chamam cha smaran kale karma bandhat pramuchyate. Karma bandhat pramuchyate. Yaitat kirtayan mayam tayam ditat madamaraha tvam chamam sasmaram kale karma bandhat pramuchyate. Yaitan kirtayan mayam tayam gitaminam naraha tvam chamam sasmaram kale karma bandhat pramuchyate. Ya, anyone who etat, this activity, kirtayat, chants, mayam, unto me, tvaya, by you, gitam, prayers offered, idam, this, naraha, human being, tvam, you, cha, as well as, mamcha, me also, Smaran, remembering. Kali, in due course of time. Karma bandhat, from the bondage of material activities. Pramuchite, becomes free. Translation. One who always remembers your activities and my activities also, and who chants the prayers you have offered, becomes free in due course of time from the reactions of material activities. Please repeat. One who always remembers your activities and my activities also, and who chants the prayers you have offered, becomes free in due course of time from the reactions of material activities. Purport Varsha Prabhupada Ki Jai. Here it is stated that anyone who chants and hears about the activities of Prahlad Maharaj and in relationship with Prahlad's activities, the activities of Nrsingadev, gradually becomes freed from all the bondage of fruitive activities. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 2:15-56, Yam hina vyatyanti ete purusham purusharshava samadukha sukham dhiram so mrityatvaya kalpate. O best among men, Arjuna, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation. Dukheshva anudvikna manaha sukheshu vigata spriha rita raga bhaya krodha stita dhira muni uchite. One is not disturbed in spite of the threefold miseries, who is not elated when there is happiness, and is free from attachment, fear, and anger, is called a sage of steady mind. A devotee should not be aggrieved in an awkward position, nor should he feel extraordinarily happy in material opulence. This is the way of expert management of material life. Because a devotee knows how to manage expertly, he is called Jivan Mukta. As Rupa Goswami explains in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Iha yashya hare dasye karmana manasa gira nikhilashvapi avastasu jivan mukta sa uchite. A person acting in Krishna consciousness, or in other words, in the service of Krishna with his body, mind, intelligence, and words, is a liberated person even within this material world, although he may be engaged in many so-called material activities. Because of constantly engaging in devotional service in any condition of life, a devotee is free from all material bondage. Bhakti punati mannishta shva pakam api sambhavat. Even one born in a family of meat-eaters is purified if he engages in devotional service. Bhagavatam 11:14-21. Shajiva Goswami cites this verse in logically supporting that anyone who chants about the pure life and activities of Prahlad Maharaj is freed from the reactions of material activities. Om Jnanatimidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmritan Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So one who always remembers your activities and my activities also, and who chants the prayers you've offered, becomes free in due course of time from the reactions of material activities. So this is the falstuti, or the fruit of hearing the pastimes of Prahlad Maharaj and Lord Nrsingadev, is that we become free from the reactions of material activities, which are binding us to this material world. It's not really possible, as it says in the Nectar devotion we just read. Rupa Goswami is saying that in other words, no one can enter into the kingdom of God without being freed from all sinful reactions. One can avoid sinful reactions simply by remembering the Lord's form, qualities, and pastimes, etc. So without being free from all these sinful reactions, we can't go back to the spiritual world. And so these pastimes are very important to recite and hear and remember, because it's actually freeing our heart of all these material desires, because it's material desires that are keeping us in this material world. So Prahlad Maharaj is free from all material desires. So when we hear about his activities and pastimes, we also get purified. And because material life means we are afflicted by this disease of lusty desires. So unless we become free from them and replace them with spiritual desires, because we can't actually become free from desire, because desire is there, because Prabhupada says we're not like a stone. So desire will be there in our heart. So unless we replace these material lusty desires with desire for spiritual life and desire to please Krishna, then we will be bound into this material world lifetime after lifetime. And then in one of the previous verses, Prahlad Maharaj says in verse 7, he says, Yadi dasya same kaman varamstam varadarshava kamanam ridya samruham bhavatastu varnevaram. He says, oh my Lord, give best of the givers of benediction. If you at all want to bestow a desirable benediction upon me, then I pray from your Lordship that within the core of my heart there will be no material desires. So this is this is how we pray to Lord Nrsingadev, to free us from material desires, because these are actually what's keeping us in this material world. And so we can memorize this prayer and remember Lord Nrsingadev in this way to help us. So these material desires are keeping us in this material world, and it's like we're chewing the chewed. We've had all these material desires, and they're getting fulfilled lifetime after lifetime, and we're still not satisfied. So we're still trying to find some juice in what's chewed already, and it's not really satisfying. So a devotee, he even if he has material desires, he prays to the Lord. Even if he wants them fulfilled, then the Lord will fulfill them in such a way that we won't desire them again. So we may have to go through some intense purification to get free from these material desires, but that's part of the process. Nothing is cheap. So if we want Krishna's mercy, then we have to be prepared for this purification. So this is Krishna's mercy. It comes in different ways. So sometimes devotees like Prahlad Maharaj show us how to behave, even through adverse situations, adversities. And although Prahlad Maharaj is beyond, he doesn't need purification, but Krishna wants to show us how a pure devotee behaves in the course of adverse situations, that he's very compassionate and he tolerates and he forgives. So, and even although Prahlad Maharaj had no material desires, he had no desire for the kingdom, to enjoy all the opulence, still the Lord gave it to him because he knew that it wasn't going to distract Prahlad Maharaj from his devotional service. So sometimes Krishna, he takes away opulence from us because it's taking us away from him. And sometimes he gives it to us because he knows it's not going to distract us, like in the case of Prahlad Maharaj, Yudhisthira Maharaj, Sudama Vipra. Krishna gave them all opulences because he knew that they were very mature in their devotional service and it wasn't going to distract them from their Krishna consciousness. So, so this process of hearing and chanting is so important. In the 12th canto, Shukadev Goswami says, the person who desires pure devotional service to Lord Krishna should hear the narrations of Lord Uttama Shloka's glorious qualities, the constant chanting of which destroys everything inauspicious. The devotee should engage in such listening in regular daily assemblies and should also continue his hearing throughout the day. So this is actually the means of our deliverance, is to hear Krishna's pastimes and qualities, and especially the pastimes of Prahlad Maharaj are very, very potent. And it's described in the Chaitanya Bhagavat that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would listen to Dhruva Maharaj's pastimes over and over again, Prahlad Maharaj's pastimes over and over again, hundreds of times. He didn't just think, oh, well, I've heard it now, let's go on to something more confidential, like the pastimes in the 10th canto. He constantly heard these pastimes, not for his own purification, but to show us, to teach us that this is the way we should actually purify ourselves, by hearing these pastimes. And in the 4th canto, Prithu Maharaj, when he speaks to the son, the 4 Kumaras come after the Prithu Maharaj performs the yajna. And Prithu Maharaj, he asks the Kumaras, what is the means of the ultimate benefit for human beings, for human society? And Sanat Kumar replies that the only cause of benefit for human society has been conclusively established in the scriptures as detachment from the bodily concept and attachment to the Lord. So these two things are actually what will benefit human society, that they become detached from material life and they become attached to the Lord. And he said that constant hearing of the Lord's qualities develops one's detachment from matter and attachment to the Lord. So the result of all this hearing, constant hearings, is this we develop this detachment from material world and attachment to Krishna. And the result of attachment to Krishna is it awakens in us jnana and vairagya. So we attain knowledge and renunciation from this world. And this destroys a subtle body. It's described in that, Sanat Kumar is describing that the subtle body, our mind, intelligence, ego, is covered. It's covered by contamination, like ignorance, ego, attachment, hatred, fear of death. So these 5 coverings of contamination cover our subtle body. And this actually is an obstacle in our remembrance of the Lord, because we're this attachment to the material world, this fear of death, this our ignorance, hatred for things, ego, these are all blocking us. And when we hear about the Lord's pastimes, then it destroys the subtle body, because we become attached to the Lord. And in the absence of the subtle body, then we can actually see the Paramatma and fulfill the Lord's desires. Then actually one doesn't see differences between our body and other bodies. We see that the soul is in our body, we are the soul, and others are also souls. And then we can actually understand what the Lord's mission is. So this is the result of hearing the pastimes of the Lord. And just so we need to hear in the association of devotees who are on the path of devotional service. So the progressive steps to devotional service is by performing actions, performing dharma. So actions performed lead to dharma. Certain pious activities, devotional activities, lead to dharma. And dharma leads to vairagya, which is renunciation. And renunciation leads to seva. So this is described in the Bhagavatam in the 3rd canto, where it says that he whose actions do not lead to dharma, and whose dharma does not lead to vairagya, and whose vairagya does not lead to the service of the Lord, is just a living corpse. So this is actually so profound, that unless our actions are leading to the service of the Lord, then we're not actually living. We've got a body, but we're not actually alive. And association is so important. So it's described that association of materialists, even done in ignorance, is a cause of bondage. So even if we're in ignorance and we associate with materialists, then it's a cause of bondage. But association with devotees, even if performed in ignorance, leads to liberation. So even if we're not even aware of a devotee, if we associate with a devotee, then actually leads to a liberation. So it's so vital that we hear from the proper source, so we actually get the proper understanding and proper siddhanta, and we go on the right path. Because there's so many obstacles to the path of pure devotional service. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in his Bhajan Rahasya, he describes as 4 causes of lack of taste for the holy name. So these obstructions that cause us to be offensive are anarthas. So he describes in detail 4 different causes. So the first one is called Tattva Vibhrama, which is illusion about spiritual knowledge. So it's illusion about our own identity as a jiva, as a soul, illusion about Krishna as the Supreme Lord. It's illusion about sadhana and prema bhakti, and it's illusion regarding things unfavorable to bhakti. So we're an illusion about these things. We don't actually have a clear understanding. So this is actually one of the causes of a lack of taste for the holy name. And the second one is Hridaya Dorbalya, which is weakness of heart. So it's described that attachment to objects that are not related to Krishna. That's a cause of another cause of lack of taste. Deceitfulness, enviousness, and desire for fame. So these are actually obstacles on the path of devotional service. And these are considered anarthas in the heart that we need to get free from. And these also cause a lack of taste for the holy name. And the third one is asat trishna, or material desires. So we may have different desires. We may have desire for material objects, desire for heavenly pleasure, desire for mystic power, desire for liberation, or freedom from suffering. Same thing. So as long as we have these material desires in our heart, then these are also going to stop us from progressing to pure devotional service, because you won't have proper taste for the holy name. And the fourth one is aparad, or offenses. So we can commit offenses to the holy name. We read the 10 offenses every day. So if we're committing any of these offenses, this will block our progress. And offenses to the Lord's form. So maybe in deity worship, we're committing offenses. Offenses to devotees, which is a very one of the most difficult ones to cross over. And offenses to other living entities. So even if they're not devotees, other living beings, animals, so, etc. If you commit offenses to other living beings, then that's also an aparad. So these obstacles give rise to 6 enemies, which are lust, anger, greed, pride, illusion, and envy. So these are actually the result of the 6 types of so the 4 different types of lack of obstructions that cause lack of taste. So if we're not chanting the holy name properly and we're performing these different things, then the result will be these lust, anger, greed, pride, illusion, and envy. And these result in 6 types of conduct. Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes them as they lead to distress, illusion, hunger, thirst, old age, and death. So it's a very, very detailed description that Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives on this process of purifying ourselves. And he recommends that we hear the pastimes where Krishna kills demons, because these certain demons are represent certain anarthas in the heart. So that's why these pastimes of the Lord killing the demons are so important, because they actually remove these anarthas from our heart, so we can progress to more to pure devotional service. And so here the result of all these pastimes of Lord Nrsingadev and Prahlad Maharaj, and especially I was thinking it's interesting how it's worded that Nrsingadev is saying that one who always remembers your activities and my activities also. It's as though like Prahlad Maharaj's activities are more important than Lord Nrsingadev's pastimes. He's kind of describing it like that, whoever remembers your activities and my activities also, and who chants the prayers you have offered, becomes free in due course of time from the reactions of material activities. So these prayers by Prahlad Maharaj are so important. They're the ones that are going to help us become free from the reactions of material activities. And in the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, then Prahlad Maharaj appears in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes as Vasudev Dutt. And Vasudev Dutt is considered the 19th branch of the Chaitanya tree. And I just wanted to read this translation in purport by Prabhupada in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila 1041. It's described in the translation. It says, Vasudev Dutt, the 19th branch of the Chaitanya tree, was a great personality and a most confidential devotee of the Lord. One could not describe his qualities even with thousands of mouths. And in the purport, Prabhupada says, Vasudev Dutt, the brother of Mukunda Dutt, was also a recipient of Chattagram. In the Chaitanya Bhagavatam, it is said, Yahastani Krishna Haya Apane Vikraya. Vasudev Dutt was such a powerful devotee that Krishna was purchased by him. Vasudev Dutt stayed at Srivas Pandit's house, and in the Chaitanya Bhagavatam, it is described that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so pleased with Vasudev Dutt and so affectionate towards him that he used to say, I am only Vasudev Dutt's man. My body is only meant to please Vasudev Dutt, and he can sell me anywhere. And thrice he vowed that this was a fact and that no one should disbelieve these statements. All my dear brothers, he said, I tell you the truth. My body is especially meant for Vasudev Dutt. And so Vasudev Dutt described that. So Vasudev Dutt, he was such a great exalted person. He's an incarnation of Prahlad Maharaj. So his mood was always compassion for living entities. And Vasudev Dutt was so distressed by the suffering of the living beings that he was ready to accept their sins and suffer in hell. And he prayed emotionally to Mahaprabhu for such a boon. He says, My Lord, you have appeared in this world to save it. So please accept my prayer. You're omnipotent and all merciful. So if you agree to fulfill my request, it can be easily done. When I see the suffering of the world, my heart is torn apart. So I ask you, Lord, give their sins to me. I will take their sins and suffer in hell on their behalf, but please deliver them from their material disease. So we can see in Vasudev Dutt's he's so compassionate. So it's described that he wished to take the sins of every single living being and suffer in hell in their place so that he could be liberated. So when Mahaprabhu heard this emotional plea on behalf of the living beings of the world, he said to Vasudev, he said, you have desired the liberation of all living beings in the entire universe, so it will be. They will be saved without you having to suffer the consequences of their sins. So Lord Chaitanya was saying that Vasudev Dutt didn't have to suffer the sins of all living entities. So this is the mood of Prahlad Maharaj.
Your activities and my activities also. And it seems like remember the activities of the devotee and of the Lord similarly purifying. And remember reading in the third canto, saying that if the name of the pure devotee is chanted, it also has the same effect of chanting the Lord. Somebody is quite out, it's not just to remember him, but to remember his devotees activities. Because of his devotee, the Lord is coming to do his activities.
Yeah.
Pure devotee is more valuable than any of the
Yeah, this is the result is we develop their qualities by glorifying them. Similarly, if we criticize devotees, we develop their bad qualities. So we glorify the good qualities of devotees, we'll develop those qualities. So that's why all these, the whole Bhagavatam is full of glorification of devotees.
It's interesting because the opposite is also true, that if one blasphemes a great devotee in their life, they can bring them in. But what mentioned before, devotee is being expanded in the sense beyond and described as evil. I've seen over time some people criticize this person and they end up in very sad situations because they've been that wrong path. One of them is very much confused and well, I guess there's two in particular that matter. As much as it's offensive against the Lord, I think it's offensive against the Lord.
Yeah, because if you see the 10 offenses, it says one of the first offenses to blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated to propagating the holy name of the Lord. It doesn't say anything about the Lord. It doesn't say if one blasphemes the Lord. It says that one who blasphemes the Lord's devotees. So that's considered the 10th offense. Because even if we commit offense against Krishna, then we can be saved by a devotee. The devotee can save us. But if we offend a devotee, then Krishna won't save us.
You mentioned different person finds fault for the devotee, and I guess he takes on those qualities as well. So what if the person is the devotee's services, he's a manager, and as a manager he has to call spade a spade, he has to see that those faults are there. Is there a danger that he can contaminate that?
Well, if it's a service, like the first duty of a spiritual master is to chastise. So if it's a service to do that, then he's not finding fault. He's trying to correct, to bring the person up. So it's a different mood. So it's constructive criticism. It's not destructive. So it's a different way of seeing it.
Managing devotees means to see with one good eye and one bad eye. So we don't just see with the bad eyes all the time. Otherwise, we fall into just a fault-finding mentality. So always there has to be a purpose of trying to uplift that devotee. And sometimes it's like Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, he would think long and hard before chastising someone, but sometimes there's not time for that, or that it doesn't matter how it's put or by who it's put, it's still not going to be palatable. We should try to make things palatable, but if someone has got such attachment or false ego that it's never going to be a palatable thing, then the risk has to be taken sometime. If someone has got such a bad disease and they'll not go to the doctor, then sometimes you get in a situation where emergency operation is required because they're going to lose a limb or something anyway.
Just a reflection, thank you. Prabhupada mentions in the purport that a devotee is not extraordinarily happy. Can you get to that one? Sure. If you go into the purport, go down a bit. And I was just wondering, we see that people at this time of the year, they're really trying to be really happy almost in a fever, and they're just lining themselves up for more distress. So we are not extra. And it's free from it. So we are not extra. There it is. A devotee should not be aggrieved in an awkward position, nor should he feel extraordinarily happy in material opulence. So, like we've just been for a break, so we knew it was going to finish, and we knew we'd be coming back here to do service again. But we enjoy it in the sense that we try and have some good experiences, and those memories we can hold on to when we go back in to our service. So if we've been in the Dharm, we think of those things. So in that sense, we're happy. So would extraordinarily happy then mean that the person is just taking that situation as the all in all, and it's going to last forever?
Well, he's saying here that he feels extraordinarily happy in material opulence. So a devotee he's not seeing that material opulence for his own enjoyment. So he's not like trying to enjoy it. So he's using it in Krishna's service. So he doesn't feel extraordinarily happy. If he's got lots of opulence, he's going to use it in Krishna's service. So it's not like he's not seeing it as for his own enjoyment. So then he's equipoised. He's not like trying to. So it's like if he's in a distressed condition, he's not overly anxious or aggrieved. And if he's in a very opulent condition, he's not overly happy about it because he knows it's all material anyway. So like, you know, Yudhishthira Maharaj, he was happy in a great opulent kingdom and he was happy in exile. He was just equipoised. He wasn't so distressed. He was quite happy just being simple, you know, Brahmin. He's a Kshatriya, but he had a Brahminical mood. And so he wasn't like overly aggrieved by either or aggrieved by going in exile and overly happy. He was only doing it to please Krishna. He only wanted, you know, he wasn't that attached to being the king. He only did it for Krishna's pleasure because Krishna wanted it.
So it seems that you safeguard against being aggrieved in an awkward position because they are going to be there if you don't become extraordinarily happy. You kind of safeguard yourself, like you say, by being equipoised.
Sorry, I didn't understand that.
Well, the other side of it is the price you'll have to pay if you are extraordinarily happy is that you'll be aggrieved when there's an awkward position. So like you say, if you're equipoised, then you'll be able to take both.
Yeah, it's like the verse that's like, we have to be, so material desires cause us to hanker and lament. So it's hankering and lamenting is due to material desires. So when we rise above that, then we become prasanna atma, like we become like, you know, not hankering and lamenting. And that's the Brahma Bhuta stage. That's the stage of like pure devotional service. You know, we're not lamenting and hankering for things. So even if things come, we're not like, it's not like, I mean, we'll feel happy, but it's not like extraordinarily happy to enjoy material opulence. And when we're put in difficulties, then we're not like so aggrieved that we're depressed and we can't do anything. We try to be equipoised, and that's what Krishna says. We have to tolerate happiness and distress. So both we have to tolerate. It's not that, you know. So if happiness comes our way, we have to tolerate that as well. But it's all temporary in this material world. We're only really happy when we're actually performing pure devotional service, because that is a bliss within our heart, within our soul. You know, our soul's blissful. Whereas all these other things are just fluctuating, happiness, distress. It's all temporary material things. So until we develop this pure devotional service and we're totally satisfied within serving Krishna, then we're not going to be, we'll still be fluctuating in this, you know. Well, it's just a general statement that, you know, even if we associate with devotees, it can bring us to the path of devotional service, even if that devotee is not, you know. Sometimes we may get a book from a devotee on the street, and that devotee no longer continues on devotional service, but he's given us that chance to be a devotee. So even if a devotee is not in great standing, still, by distributing books, they're still helping other living beings, you know, to come on the path, because you remember when you got the Krishna book, right? You want to tell that story, how you got when you first got the Krishna book? It was from somebody who left Krishna consciousness or something, right?
The person who told about Krishna, he'd left and was breaking all the principles. And but he gave me a Krishna book anyway, and he still had quite an impact on me, actually. He was still head and shoulders above anybody else in my life at that time, because he had done some devotional service, and he had some wisdom as well. I was amazed at how much knowledge he had. I was really fascinated by him.
Yeah, so of course, if we meet somebody like Srila Prabhupada, it'll definitely affect us more, in our devotional life. But when we give Prabhupada's books to people, that is giving Prabhupada's association to people. So they will also benefit from that, and they'll come to the path of devotional service. So, and when we distribute books, even if the person we give it to isn't going to read it, and if he passes it on to another person and they read it, that person will make the same advancement in devotional service because they've distributed Prabhupada's book to somebody. So they're actually performing devotional service. So whoever is distributing the book, whether it's a devotee or a non-devotee, they're going to make spiritual advancement by that. So because they've brought somebody to the path of devotional service. There was that story about one devotee was distributing books in Budapest, and she'd actually distributed a book, and she would write the person's name in the book and sign it, for that person. So she signed, his name was Bruno, which is not a very common name, and she'd signed it with love from her name. And then she gave it to that person. That person actually never read the book, and he put it down on a bench. Somebody found the book, and his name was Bruno. And he looked at the book, and he says, well, it says to Bruno from love from this person. And he says he was trying to find, so he found the address of the place, and he went there, and she says, well, I've never met you before. Who are you? And he says, well, you signed the book to Bruno, and I'm Bruno. So then he became a devotee, as far as I know. So that's what it says, like each book has got a name tag on it, and it's for some particular person. And it could be Bruno or whoever it is. So, and, he found it on the bench. So, he still got the mercy. So, in some way or another, we have to get that association somehow, either through a devotee or from Prabhupada's books or from hearing from.
He read Prabhupada's books, and then when he heard Srila Prabhupada, he recognized the voice. And it was the voice that he'd heard while he'd been reading Srila Prabhupada's books. So Prabhupada had been speaking to him through the books. Then when he heard Prabhupada and saw him, then he realized, oh, that's the same voice.
Yeah, I've heard somebody else say the same. So that booming voice in the books is Prabhupada's voice. When we hear his lectures, it's the same. Because these books are recorded, like they're written from the recordings that Srila Prabhupada did as well. So it is actually his words that he spoke, not just written, because he was speaking through the dictaphone, right? Is that okay?
When you go back to the spiritual world, you'll see me there, and you'll recognize me, but I won't look the same. So, is it that all the people that come in contact with Lord Chaitanya's movement, they're all going back to that special place because that's where they came from in the first place?
Well, Prabhupada said back to Godhead.
Yeah.
So I can't say more than that, what Prabhupada said.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, shall I stop? Okay. Grantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shishikodan Taimai Prashishi ki jai, Gaur Premanande. Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai.